You tell yourself it's the person. That's the story you've been repeating since it happened. You miss them, their voice, their name, the particular way they said good morning like it was a small discovery. But sit with the feeling long enough, and something strange begins to surface. It isn't always their face that arrives first. It's a photograph you weren't looking for, a street you used to walk without thinking, a song that plays in a grocery store and rearranges your whole afternoon, a message you never deleted sitting in a thread that no longer moves. You call this missing someone. But here is the first quiet contradiction, the one most people never stop to examine. Sometimes the person you remember doesn't actually resemble the person they were. You remember them softer than they were, or harder, or more certain of you than they ever actually seemed at the time. The memory has been edited, and not by them, by something else, something we rarely think to question. Memory does not store a relationship. It stores fragments, and it stores them unevenly. Not the years, not the ordinary Tuesdays, the traffic, the small disagreements, the long stretches where nothing happened at all. What survives is a laugh at a specific volume, one night that had no reason to matter more than the others, except that it did. A sentence said in a doorway. The mind is not an archivist. It is an editor with taste, and its taste runs toward meaning, not accuracy. So when you replay the memory of someone, you are not replaying them. You are replaying a compression, a highlight reel assembled by a part of you that was choosing, without your permission, what deserved to last. Which raises a question most people never ask out loud. What exactly are you remembering? The person, or the place you were in when they were near you, the age you were, the possibility that still felt open, the feeling itself, detached now from whoever caused it, floating loose like something that no longer needs a source. Because sometimes, the answer is uncomfortable in a very specific way. Sometimes what you are attached to is not who they were, but who you were around them. Maybe you were more reckless then. Maybe you said things you wouldn't say now, took chances you've since learned to calculate against. Maybe you were more hopeful in the specific, unguarded way that only exists before life has disappointed you a certain number of times. Maybe you were more naive, and there was a kind of freedom in that naivete you didn't recognize until it was gone. Maybe your ambitions still felt unshaped, which meant they still felt limitless. Maybe you were more emotionally open, willing to be affected by things you've since learned to brace against. Maybe the future, back then, still looked large, undecided, full of versions of your life that hadn't been ruled out yet. Somewhere in that stretch of time, without your noticing, the person became fused to that version of you. Not because they created it, perhaps only because they were present for it. They were the room that version of you happened to be standing in. And so when they left, or you left, or the years simply carried you in different directions, something else went with them. Not just a relationship. Access. Access to a self that apparently required their presence to exist, or at least felt that way, which may amount to the same thing. This is why losing someone can feel like losing a country you used to live in. Not because the country was necessarily good, because you had citizenship there once, and now you don't, and no one will let you back across that particular border. Which explains something people do over and over without understanding why it fails. They return to the person, if that's still possible, to the city, to the restaurant where something once happened, to the old neighborhood, the specific street, the song, the photograph, the exact table by the window. They go back expecting the original feeling to be waiting for them, preserved like something left in a drawer. It rarely is. The place looks the same, sometimes eerily so. The person, if they're there, might even seem largely unchanged. And still, something is missing, something no one can quite name. The temptation is to blame the place, to say, it's different now. They paved that lot, the restaurant changed hands, the person got older, colder, harder to reach. But sometimes none of that is true. Sometimes everything is exactly as it was, and the feeling still refuses to return. Because the feeling was never really housed in the location, it was housed in the observer. And the observer is not the same person who stood there the first time. You cannot re-enter a memory. You can only revisit its coordinates. The moment required a specific version of you to generate it, and that version doesn't wait around in the world for your return. It existed once, briefly, under a particular set of conditions, and then it was spent, the way a match is spent by being struck. So maybe nostalgia was never longing for the past at all. Maybe it's longing for an experience that has become, quietly and permanently, physically impossible to repeat. Think of someone now. Not everyone. One person. Someone you still, in some unguarded moment, miss. Ask yourself honestly what it is you're missing. Their voice? Their particular way of walking into a room? Or is it the feeling of being around them, distinct from anything about who they actually were? Is it the person you were before it ended, back when certain doors hadn't closed yet? Is it who you believed at the time you were becoming? The future you had allowed yourself to imagine before it collapsed into whatever future you're standing in now? Is it, perhaps, the person you were allowed to be around them? The version that felt safe enough, or reckless enough, or hopeful enough to exist only in their company and has since gone quiet in every other room of your life. No one is telling you to reach out. No one is telling you to forgive them or to release them, or that closure is a door you simply haven't found yet. This isn't that kind of question. It's simply this. Sit with the ache long enough, and it may stop pointing at them. It may start pointing somewhere else entirely, somewhere closer, somewhere harder to look at directly. So maybe this is the shape of it. Maybe you don't always miss the people who leave. Maybe, sometimes, you miss the selves that left with them. But here's the final complication, the one that refuses to resolve neatly. That version of you was probably never permanent to begin with. It wasn't something they built. It wasn't something they owned or gave you or took when they left. It's possible they simply happened to be present while it existed. A room that self was passing through, not a room it was ever going to live in forever. Which means the person you think you are grieving might not be the true subject of the grief at all. They might be something closer to a doorway into a version of yourself that has already, quietly, without ceremony, stopped existing. You don't miss the doorway, you miss what was standing on the other side of it. And doorways don't reopen, they just remain, in memory, permanently ajar.